China has just erased the United States' lead in artificial intelligence. A death cross has appeared in the AI large language models between China and the US. Within 3 years, Chinese laboratories will replace the United States as the world's leader in artificial intelligence. Just a few days ago, Moon's dark side, Yuezhi Amian released Kimi K3 with 2.8 trillion parameters and a 1 million token context window. It shot straight to the top of the front-end code arena globally on the very day of its release, surpassing Anthropic's Claude Fable 5 in a large number of benchmark tests. The K3 surpasses Opus 4.8 and is extremely close to, or even exceeds, cutting-edge models like Fable GPT 5.6. Are the Americans saying that Chinese labs are just distilling? Are they saying we are copying? I have to say, the Chinese are just too good at copying. We accidentally copied our way to first place. I previously made a video explaining the distillation issue in detail. You simply cannot distill a large model just by using its output text. You need the logits from the model's output. A large model's output is a probability distribution. Using only the final output text is like giving you just a few points and asking you to reconstruct a curved surface. It is almost impossible. As we all know, black box distillation is extremely inefficient, and it cannot explain the level currently achieved by Chinese models. Even after I posted that video, some people still didn't get it. I thought about it further, and I think many people have confused the concept, adding the output text of a large model into your training set. To train your own model is not distillation. Calling that distillation is wrong. It is actually data synthesis, which is part of data augmentation. It is a relatively cheap way to increase the amount of data. And all labs, whether Chinese or American, use this method. However, such data only adds a little extra value and cannot replace truly high-quality original data. The emergence of K3 has completely shattered the distillation narrative, because its capabilities have reached a level that theoretically could not have been achieved through mere distillation. Distillation is an argument pushed by Americans, and even our own experts from Peking University published an article just a few months ago, claiming that all Chinese AI startups had died. Yet last month, Zhipu just released its GLM 5.2, which reached the level of Opus 4.8. In less than a month, Kimi's K3 reached the level of Fable 5. And I'm telling you, this is not the end. This month we also have Minimax's M3, and the one I'm most looking forward to, the official version of DeepSeek V4. Stay tuned. Regular followers of my channel know that even before DeepSeek V3 came out, I was already very confident about China's large models. Because I know that none of this is magic. All innovation comes from accumulation. Training state 3 of the Fados is the same. What you really need is simple: the accumulation of resources and talent. Resources are not just computing power, they include capital, data, energy, etc. It is systemic. Computing is only one part. China lacks computing resources, but that is temporary. Take the K3 release announcement, which has a passage that warrants special attention. It says, from the SFT stage onward, Kimi K3 applies quantization, aware training, using MXFP4 weights and MXFP8 activations to achieve broad hardware compatibility. They are using MXFP4, not NVIDIA's NVFP4. NVFP4 is a proprietary format for NVIDIA's Blackwell chips and can only run on NVIDIA. MXFP4, however, is an open standard supported by AMD, Intel, and even Huawei's Ascend chips. This means that domestic AI labs, not just DeepSeek, have already started preparing to adapt their models for domestic chips. There is also another recent development. Meituan released Longcat 2.0. I have been testing this model recently as well. According to the Longcat team, this is a 1.6 trillion parameter large model that was completely trained on domestic chips. All of this shows that China's AI tech stack is gradually taking shape. All those AI labs are adapting their systems, and the computing power problem will soon be resolved. Looking at other aspects, China does not lack data either. We have hundreds of thousands of experts, lawyers, scientists, doctors, programmers, and so on, who generate the data needed for reinforcement learning environments every single day. This reinforcement learning environmental data is the most critical piece, As for AI talent, I don't even need to elaborate. Jensen Huang has repeatedly emphasized on various occasions that over 50% of the world's top AI talent is based in China. With this foundation in place, what remains is the ability to organize how to effectively integrate these resources and talents. This is something that is honed through repeated practice. For example, in the past, China's data flywheel never really got spinning. We lacked high-quality data from specialized domains. But now, over the past 2 years, a number of data service companies have emerged, specifically connecting professionals like lawyers, doctors, and programmers, and converting their specialized knowledge into structured training data for large models. This is how we identify bottlenecks and obstacles in practice, and then solve them. And the data flywheel starts turning. This process is also a form of accumulation, institutional accumulation. This includes the talent flow mechanism between universities and enterprises, industry standards, intellectual property protection, venture capital systems, and the engineering culture cultivated over the long term. All of these have been developed bit by bit through practice. Now we lack none of these accumulations. That is why I am so confident about China's AI. The above is the first reason I believe China will take the lead. We already have a sufficient foundation and capability. But capability alone is not enough. Being able to build great things does not mean you can defeat your opponents. There is another crucial factor, the business model. Is your business model better adapted to the next stage of this industry? On July 10th, 2026, Goldman Sachs released a 50-page research report on Chinese AI models. The author, a Goldman Sachs strategist, began with this phrase, the $64 trillion elephant in the room. That 64 trillion is an estimate by Goldman Sachs economics team of the cumulative global GDP growth that AI could contribute over the next decade. In other words, that is the big pie they drew for us, AI. And now that elephant has become a $64 trillion thorny problem. China's open source AI models are taking global market share at an incredible speed, and the US closed dive source business model is being fundamentally shaken at its roots by this pace. Let's look at a few numbers. According to statistics from OpenRouter, the world's largest neutral routing platform for large modal traffic, handling over 20 trillion tokens of inference requests per week, open source models from China have surged from less than 2% of token share to 60.1% in just 18 months. More than half of all AI workloads processed globally through this platform now run on Chinese models. In first place is Xiaomi, whose MiMo series accounts for about 21% of traffic, more than OpenAI and Anthropic combined. DeepSeek is in second place at about 18%. Alibaba's QAA is third at about 14%. OpenAI is at about 7.5%. Meta, the company that once carried the open source AI banner, now has less than 1% share on OpenRouter and has essentially disappeared from the rankings. And note that OpenRouter's traffic has grown roughly fourfold over the past 18 months. That is to say, Chinese models are not just grabbing more share in a shrinking market. They are eating almost all the new incremental growth in a rapidly expanding market. Some friends might think that data from just one routing platform does not tell the whole story after all. ChatGPT's daily users are all on its own app, right? This skepticism is reasonable, but you have to understand that OpenRouter primarily reflects the choices of developers. App users are ordinary consumers. To put it bluntly, many of them can't even be bothered to register an account, let alone spend money. Think about why Dubao has the most users. Is it because it has the best model? No, it is because you don't need to register a new account. That is why developers are the real bellwethers of the industry. They are the big spenders. So why are developers no longer choosing American models? Because Chinese models are cheaper and just as good. For example, Lindy, an American AI-powered work assistant company, announced in June that it had migrated its entire system from Anthropic to DeepSeek, saving several $millions. On a tech podcast, the founder said something that I believe everyone working at a US AI company should memorize. You don't need God to help you write emails. This perfectly captures the current state of the AI market. There are two ways to use AI. The first is for labor coding, writing emails, summarizing documents, customer service responses. All simple, repetitive tasks that do not require the smartest models. Chinese models are good enough and cheap, making them ideal for this kind of work. The second is for complex reasoning, strategic analysis, and exploratory research. American models are indeed still ahead in the second category. Take a look at this chart. This is CREATE-TAPT. It is a frontier physics reasoning benchmark, consisting of 71 cutting-edge research level physics problems. This is the benchmark I personally care about the most. As you can see, GPT is still ranked first, but Kimi and Jipu have already made it into the top 10. The second type of work, although very important, has very limited application scenarios. Most people use AI for the first type repetitive simple tasks, like coding and document summarization. For this first type of demand, the most important factor is price. DeepSeek vForce API pricing is about 1/12 of GPT, 5.5's QW 3.5, costs only 6.5 cents per minute alien tokens. Even the strongest model, Kimi K3, is half the price of Fable 5. According to UBS estimates, these Chinese models have already reached about 95% of the capability of US frontier models. They deliver 95% of the capability at only 1/10 of the price. Moreover, an even more critical shift is taking place in how enterprises use AI. Goldman Sachs calls it moving from stacking tokens to prioritizing ROI. What is stacking tokens? It refers to the trend from late 2025 to early 2026, when many management teams believed that using more AI was inherently better. So token consumption was treated as a KPI. We all know how that turned out a complete mess. According to a Jellyfish AI engineering trend survey, heavy AI users in enterprises consumed 10 times more tokens, but only achieved twice the output. So now, companies are starting to measure AI in a completely different way. Not by how many tokens you ran, but by how many intelligent work units you completed, and the total cost from start to finish for a given task. When the metric shifts from how much is used to is it worth it, the advantage of Chinese models becomes clear. They become the preferred choice, better, cheaper, and easier to deploy. American companies are now shifting toward Chinese models. According to Ramp, an enterprise spending platform, in its June data covering software procurement by more than 50,000 US companies, DeepSeek was already the fastest growing supplier. Let me show you this chart. It includes well-known US companies like Cursor, Coinbase, Shopify, and Airbnb. As you can see, they are all pivoting to Chinese models. Once this shift occurs, it is very difficult to reverse. Moreover, this process also has a flywheel effect. Goldman Sachs particularly emphasized in its report that China's leading models will gain more real-world usage. Every coding error and every successful task completion sends data back. This data is used for reinforcement learning and post-die training, making the next version of the model even stronger and locking in more developers. This is a self-reinforcing cycle. This is the second factor I believe will lead to China's AI dominance. The business model. China's cheap open source model, as the industry transitions from token stacking to efficiency seeking, has become a structural advantage. But these two factors, after all, remain at the enterprise and market level. Now for the third factor, institutional competition, or who gets to determine the global rules of the AI future. In the long run, this is the most important. On July 16th, the same day K3 was released, the World Artificial Intelligence Cooperation Organization WICO agreement was signed in Shanghai. This is the first global AI governance institution established outside the UN system, led by China. A day later, on July 17th, our General Secretary delivered a keynote speech at the opening ceremony. This speech was extremely important and contained 4 core propositions. First, adhere to open source, open, cooperative, and shared development. This provides the highest high-level policy endorsement for the open source path of Chinese models. Open tight source is no longer just a corporate competitive strategy. It has been elevated to the level of national foreign policy. You no longer need to worry about China adopting a US-style containment and blockade route in the future. Second, strengthen security and controllability, but oppose the overstretching of the national security concept and oppose placing one's own national security above that of other countries. This directly calls out the US chip export controls and tells the world that we will not weaponize AI large models like the US does. Everyone can use them with confidence. Third, promote mutual learning among civilizations. He proposed that AI applications should preserve the cultural uniqueness of each country, rather than being dominated by a single language or a single culture's models. In plain language, the world cannot be dominated solely by English language, or by models trained solely on American values. Every country has its own data, language, and legal systems. China can now help you build your own models without requiring you to relinquish control over your own data. This is the concept of AI sovereignty. Personally, I believe this is a Chinese version of universal values. Fourth, largest scale capacity building for the global south. Over the next 5 years, China will provide 5,000 AI special training slots for developing countries, establish international AI application cooperation centers with ASEAN, the Arab League, the African Union, CELAC, the SCO-BRICS, and others, and promote the deployment of China's independently developed intelligent operations system. Massachusetts Zoo Mazu in 30 countries. This is true democratic technological equality, my friends. These propositions are exactly what I have repeatedly emphasized to you all a long time ago. I said back then that China's AI strategy should take exactly this path. Now you see for yourselves, the caliber of our channel is really high. These 4 points establish a complete cooperation model. WICO provides an intergovernmental cooperation platform. Chinese open source models and cloud computing technology provide the underlying technical support. Training programs and cooperation centers provide the delivery network, and specific projects like Mazu provide visible public benefits. This is a complete institutional framework. China is not just catching up to the capabilities of US models. China is elevating the entire competitive arena, and the US. Now, in order to deliver returns on its huge upfront investments, it has been forced onto a closed source path. In the future, their investments will only grow larger, and their models will become increasingly closed off. These are the 3 reasons why I believe China will inevitably replace the United States in AI within 3 years. I am not saying that there are no problems to be solved in China's AI development right now. Just that these problems cannot reverse this trend. Finally, I want to show you this chart. This is the death cross chart. This chart has appeared repeatedly across various domains. For example, here is the death cross in China's electricity generation. Here is the death cross in manufacturing output. And here is the death cross in the Nature Index, the Scientific Research Index. The latest death cross chart is for ChinaRU's soft power, and the one in today's chart is the death cross point in the ChinaRU's AI field. Alright,